Hello Savages, it's Brewski here, and I'm showing you a really simple tutorial for ice terrain scatter today. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy IX, and one of the areas in it is called the Ice Cavern. Wonder why. And I really like the look of this ice. It's not all snow covered. This is more of the crystal clean sort of look, and I wanted to just come up with a fast way to replicate that on the tabletop. So again, this is a very, very simple tutorial. To start off, you're just going to need some pink foam. Get yourself some blocks, some chunks. This is also really good for your offcuts. So when you have other projects done, save those as you'll be able to use that. You'll need a utility knife or a hot wire foam cutter, and you'll need some paint. Really, you just need white, and you're going to need some kind of a very light blue, light green. You'll see me change this up a little bit later. But the first thing you're going to do is process down your foam. Now, we just want a bunch of geometric, sharp angles. You can see I'm starting with the corners here. Again, this retractable type of knife helps. These are the really cheap, buy 10 for $5 sort. It really doesn't have to be special. If you have a hot wire foam cutter, you can, of course, use that as well. I find this works better for the sharp edges, and you don't get a lot of the irregular wavy lines. If you've got a Proxon, one of those really good high-end cutters, go ahead and use that. But for your everyday sort of build, this will work just fine. And you just keep sawing away, taking chunks off so you get really flat, plain surfaces. Try to take off so it doesn't just look like a square. You can even make little jagged offcuts on the inside. Just give yourself a bunch of surfaces. This can even be layered, so it really can be as simple or as complicated as you want. Just keep going at it until you get a shape that you like. So there's the final shape basically, and you can see it's just got a bunch of flat edges, harsh edges, and you've got some offcuts, like I said, so you'll be able to stack those on if you want to layer this up or make something a little bigger, a little taller. That's totally up to you. So now we're going to move on to 90% of the work, which really is just the painting. And unfortunately, the paint I was using here, the white came out fine, and that is the majority of what you're going to use is white. This is almost going to look like an off-white piece. My little turquoise here ended up being a little bit too thick, but I left this in so you see kind of how much you're going to need, what color you're going for. You could darken this up a little bit. I kept mine a little bit lighter, but again, it's mostly white, and you're just going to use a little dollop of blue or green, whatever color you want to go for. They both work. It's really just what look you're trying to get. I went for a very white, very bright crystalline kind of look, and this is where my paint got really, really chunky, so I just decided real fast I'm not using that. So you can see me pull it over here, but that gives you some idea of how much paint I was thinking of using. I went to my trusty Blick brand and did the same kind of thing. Now this is a little darker and a little more green, but again, works just fine, as you'll see when this is all done. Again, you are using mostly white, probably 4-to-1, 5-to-1 mixture to your other color. So you just want to grab a brush and mix that around. That's about what you want. It's almost going to be like a very light mint green or robin's egg blue, and slap it right on the piece. Just cover over. You don't want the pink to show through for the most part. I know there is pink ice. I know that is a thing and sometimes shows up. Maybe you want that. Totally fine. But just cover over the whole thing. Get all the surfaces. Make sure it's an even coat. Get everything pretty well slathered on. And don't worry too much about being messy about this. About the only thing you don't want is the paint to stick on those rough edges. You're going to take a minute and just kind of clean off any excess and get that so you just have the edge of the foam. You don't have any paint rolled up there, sticking off. Totally fine. So once your white, green, or white, blue mix has dried, that's pretty much what you have to work with. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to take some plain white and we're going to dry brush this on. Dry brushing, in case you're new, you just are taking a little bit of paint on the brush. You are wiping most of it off. It's called dry brushing because the brush is almost dry. And the point of this is we just want to heighten the color on the edges to some degree in the middle of the flat surfaces. Again, you can see there I'm putting a little on the brush to getting most of it off. And I'm just starting off on the edges and corners and just giving it a quick once over and giving that a little bit of lightness. Do not worry if this goes into the flat surfaces. That's really not a problem. Like I said, you don't want this to just be an edge highlight. That can be cleaner there, but it works totally fine if this goes into the flat surfaces a bit too. It gives it a little more depth, a little more frozen look, if you will. It works. This is a no-brainer sort of technique. As long as you're not slapping on too much white paint and covering everything over, this will work just fine. So go ahead and get all the surfaces, and as I said, even feel free to go in on that top flat surface there. I went inwards a little bit on my dry brush. Really didn't take too much. Last thing, to give this a little bit of shine, get some Mod Podge, get some gloss medium, and just dab that right onto the piece. Don't really need to stint on that. It's not going to hurt the foam. It's not going to pull the paint off or anything. Just make sure it's dry when you do this. Otherwise, it will tend to blend the colors. And just spread it all over. The point there is that's going to give you a shiny ice look. Be careful if your sealant is matte or if it has a satin finish or anything like that, because that's going to look a little bit more grainy. You really do want gloss for this, just because it is supposed to be clean, icy, flat. But that's really all there is to it. Just cover over all the surfaces. Same thing again. And there you have it. That is the final look. I just did a couple of these pieces really quickly. And again, this is a fast project. This is meant to get on the table quickly. It's not going to be covered in snow terrain or snow textures or anything extra like that. It's just cut it, paint it, gloss it, and you're done and ready to go. Yes, you could put details into it. You could, carve more detail. You could put down something like snow flock or even baking soda. I've seen all kinds of tricks to give it a snowy look. But as I said, when I showed you the reference picture, I wanted this to be the flat, just plain ice, almost see-through, kind of bluey green. I wanted that look, and that's a very easy way to pull that off. So you could easily batch make some of these in, I don't know, an hour or two, depending on how fast your paint dries and the kind of time you have. And you could do that with one sheet of XPS insulation foam. It's really not hard to do, and all you need is that simple utility knife. So this is a quick build, perfect for beginners. If you just want to get some scatter on the table, very easy to do. Glue wise, I recommend either hot glue or get yourself some Gorilla Glue contact adhesive. It works really well on foam. It won't tend to break or separate up on you, and the only additive there is you would build before you actually get into your painting. Put that all together first. So I hope this has been helpful. If it has, please leave a like. If you want to make some of this and show it off, I'd be happy to see your work. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one. Stay savage, peeps.